Well, I think it's because it seems to be you're going to be reapproached by somebody different. And you know what? If you don't have an agent, you need to get an agent.
Hmm. Well, I do have, it's hard to hear with the music playing.
Hello, welcome to Portal Paranormal Talk Radio. I'm your host, Tuesday Miles, and our other host, Angela Thomas, will be joining us on the second hour of today, and I want to welcome you all back, and thanks for joining us in. Today's guest that we have is Jack Rourke, and I'm going to call Jack a psychic medium, and I'm going to say, you know, that shortly he's going to be known all over the world. And welcome, Jack. Nice to see you.
Well, thank you. It's very nice to be here Tuesday. Thank you for having me.
You know, I met you about a year ago during the Queen Mary Ghost Fest.
Mm-hmm.
You were producing this.
That's correct.
And, you know, to compare, because I did go to the Ghost Fest this year, and I went to the one last year, and I'm going to have to compare that, Jack. This year's wasn't nothing close to what it was last year. Last year was, to me, was very successful. It was a nice Ghost Fest, and I don't know what happened this year, but there wasn't as much of a big crowd as there was last year.
Well, I had nothing to do with this year's event, I guess is what you're into. You're give me a backhanded compliment here.
I did.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, last year was a tremendous amount of work, and to be fair or diplomatic, you know, myself, Pat Wheelock, and Erica Frost, we did work very hard putting last year's event together, and I think that, you know, given our individual backgrounds, we each brought some unique and wonderful things to the event. And, you know, the event didn't go off without its own hitches, but it was the first year for that event, and the Queen Mary is a really unique place in their management style, as well as, you know, just the logistics of doing something on a ship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and being our first time doing something that large, you know, it did present some challenges, but overall we were really pleased with how it came off. And as I was beginning to say, is because, you know, we each have our own individual unique backgrounds in this paranormal field, you know, we knew what we'd want to see in an event. We knew who we'd want to bring. And I think that, you know, I was able to bring some things to the table that helped facilitate that process. So, you know, I thank you for giving me that recognition. We did work very, very, very hard, and it's too bad because I had a lot of plans for this year's event, and it didn't work out. So, but we'll see.
Well, you know, it was, and you know, I know, and as I, you know, could see for myself last year that all three of you did work really hard. I mean, I could tell nonstop that you weren't standing in one spot for too long. You were constantly moving, making sure everything on the venue that was there was working as it should have been. And I didn't notice anything less. I didn't know if it was, you know, if you would have noticed that something didn't go right, but I didn't notice anything for myself. And I did do a write-up on it afterwards, and I felt that I complimented everybody who had their hands involved with it. And this year it kind of did what it was, you know, there was hardly anybody there. There was no vendors. There was any, as far as I knew, you really didn't know where anything was, that if it was going on. So, you know, maybe this is a clue for the Queen Mary that, you know, they should stick with something good that was going, and maybe they'll include you again last year, or next year for this, actually.
Yeah, well, Pat and Erica were involved with the event this year, but they weren't planners. You know, Erica, from what I understand, was just hired, to contribute as a speaker and as, you know, her as a psychic, and of course Pat, you know, led, you know, the technical investigations, but outside of that, they had no planning or no real, you know, had nothing really to say about the event as far as I know. And so, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, you know, it was, there's a lot I shouldn't say, but, you know, putting together an event of that size does have its unique challenges, and for those listening, and yourself included, who did come, you know, thank you so much for, you know, for your support, and thank you for the kind write-up. And, you know, Erica, you know, she worked so hard during that event. I mean, she literally slept only a couple of hours a night. Pat didn't sleep at all through the event.
Yeah, I think I added in my article I wrote that he probably has a couple new gray hairs.
Oh, yeah, and he in fact didn't sleep for several days before the event. He's an insomniac, and he's in a good way, he's a workaholic, and he really does not sleep because he has several jobs, and he's got his hands in many different things, and I didn't. The only sleep I got was a couple of hours. I didn't sleep. We started on. I said 2 hours sleep on the Thursday before the event started. Friday night, I slept from 7:30 to 8:15 in the morning, and then went all day until Saturday evening. I was in the lobby coordinating the tours, and answering questions between tours. And at around, I think it was 4:15, I was talking to someone and I blacked out.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I blacked out. I was asleep and didn't even realize this. Someone had to poke me in the shoulder. And so I went and I went and I laid down for about 20 minutes, and then I went to the office and photocopied the next day's event schedules and was stapling for another hour. And then at some point, I did end up in bed, and Erica came and knocked on my door, and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "The fire department is outside. A pipe had burst in the ceiling outside my door, and there was 6 inches of water on the floor. The fire department was there, and I was sound asleep." It was the most. I was never.
Up on that. Oh gosh, Jack, that's Well,
yeah, it was really quite an eventful weekend. The three of us, pushed ourselves beyond I think what we knew were capable of doing without sleep.
Well, this is the thing. People don't really, and I'm hoping that people did, give you all the acknowledgement and compliments that you should have received from that. And I don't, it's hard to say. The fact is that this year, to compare what last year is, that they're, and I had, in visiting some of the booths that were there at the Queen this year, that many complimented it and said, "You know what, now we see the difference. Now we see the difference." So, like I said, well, maybe next year they'll go back and maybe work with you all to do this again and hold the Ghost Fest. And for the listeners who don't know what we're talking about, the Ghost Fest is an event that the Queen Mary is new to having yearly, regarding bringing in all the paranormal enthusiasts. It's in the tour. You have ghost tours there that are led from yourself. Erica did some, Pat Wheelock, and on it, and also to let the public come in and enjoy themselves by listening to lecturers. And unfortunately, we lost Peter James this year, which our listeners know about. And so we'll look forward.
Yeah, Peter it was wonderful to finally meet Peter. I of course had seen him on television years ago, and there was some discussion in the year prior to when we first started planning Ghost Fest as to whether or not Peter would be a part of it, because of course Peter was synonymous with the Queen Mary for many years, and of course since he had retired, and we decided that we couldn't really have the event without having him there. It would seem strange or even offensive in some way. So we were really pleased to have him there, and it was nice to finally meet him. I'd only known him, of course, by reputation, having seen him on TV. So. And I feel especially fortunate now, considering that, we now lost him, to have had that opportunity to meet him in person and work with him.
Absolutely on it. So, Jack, let me ask some questions about you. Were you born and raised in California?
No, I wasn't. I'm from the East Coast.
From the East Coast, okay. I didn't know that on it. And, and reading over, let me give your website out, and that's, you can look at Jack's website where we're speaking to him. It's on www.jackrourke, and that's ROURKE and .com, and go ahead and take a look at that so you can actually read up on some information about Jack. Jack, I was reading over your site, and on your site you had quoted you have been noticing spirits since you were a young child, around the age of 5 or so.
Yeah, I would say so. That I have some very specific memories before that age, but it's hard to discern now as an adult whether or not God, that was so long ago, really what was going on. But, I do have some specific memories as, 5, 6, 7 years old of having some interesting things happen.
Do you feel today that as a child having gifts that it makes you different? Do you feel that you're different than others?
No, actually, I don't. Okay, I don't. There's interesting things about being sensitive. I think that all children. I don't think this opinion is really far out there. It's probably held by many. All children are extrasensory perceptive. I think they don't have the language skills in order to, or the conditioning to understand that what they're perceiving is fantastic or outside of the ordinary.
Okay.
At very young ages, as well, a child isn't fully developed and doesn't know itself as an individual, as an independent being. So I think at a very young age, it's hard to discern, say a spirit or something like that, because a child doesn't know the difference between us and them, or you and I. It's linked to its mother. As we get older and we begin to individualize a little more, I think it's easier to objectify things and start to say, oh, that man who, speaks to me, or that woman I saw walking, and mom doesn't know who she was, and oh, that's dead grandma, or something like that. I think then there's a window of opportunity to begin to explore the idea that a child, is perceiving things extrasensorily. But then, of course, by the time 6, 7, and 8 years rolls around, most children begin to become so individualized that they become cocooned in the conditioning of what it is to be a human being,
so
oriented to the physical world only.
You would think that they just think everybody else sees them too.
No, what I'm saying is that's a possibility. What I'm saying is that the ability to perceive things extrasensorily, I think we lose that as a natural part of becoming a human being.
Okay.
I think this is, of course, complete theory and conjecture and, bordering on personal opinion. I think that what happens is as we enter this life, as before we enter this life, we have an obtuse awareness of all that is without a sense of an individual I. And the process of being individualized as first energy into soul and then into physical matter, I think it continues into the first several years of physical life, until which point we become completely individualized, and we then take on the role of almost reverse engineering and then reconnecting with who we are, and then of course eventually we leave this and go back into what we were, only this time maybe a little far along in our journey.
So was there a certain point in your life where your gifts became extremely noticeable and stronger? Yes and no. I think there were moments along the way in my late teen years where I began to perceive. There's two ways to answer this question. Okay.
One is that perceptually I was never, I had never lost my ability to perceive and orient myself emotionally in response to the emotional life around me. And I think that is something that many psychiatrists or psychologists would look at people who call themselves psychic and see that as a forerunner, as someone who, let me try to back up. That condition, being very hypersensitive to people's emotional dispositions, is actually a forerunner in many people to becoming psychic. I don't think that it's innately psychic in itself, and I happen to agree with psychologists and psychiatrists who say that this is it's a coping mechanism. It's a way for people to handle and manage stress, or handle and manage, or even in some instances manipulate or control their environment for the sense of their own safety. So that, in one way, could be considered on a fringe psychic. It probably borders on empathetic skill more than a psychic phenomena. But then as later on, as I've matured more, I had clear, clean, objective psychic events in my life, like, having people appear in front of me, having prophetic dreams, things like that.
Being able to validate it more.
Completely.
Okay.
And I'm one of those folks that believes that everything should be validated.
Okay. So are you a skeptic until you can validate that?
I think that in every human being, we do ourselves a disservice if we're not skeptic. I think that we need a healthy dose of skepticism in order to keep our feet on the ground. Most importantly, with those who pursue psychic endeavors or sensitive work, we need a healthy dose of skepticism, because what happens is, many teachers will teach, in psychic development, that just because you see something and it can't be verified doesn't mean it isn't real. So cling to that and just run with it. That might be good in the beginning because you want someone to feel the freedom to believe in themselves, but somewhere along the line, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and we have to be willing to say, I can be wrong. We have to be willing to say, no, I require proof. I require more, because as you require more from yourself and as you require more from your spirit helpers, you will get more. And it is important because, like energy attracts like energy. And so if we want to be responsible and credible practitioners of psychic arts, then we need to hold ourselves to a standard. And similarly, we will attract to ourselves those energies which will vibrate in harmony with our intent and who we are, and strive to serve and work with us in an integrous way.
No, I couldn't have answered that any better on that, Jack. And I agree with you in every way that you presented to that. That was, I agree. And the fact is that also too, and I just want to clarify this. So you are clairvoyant. With being a clairvoyant, is your sight inner? Is it with your mind's eye that you see? Is it, because clairvoyants come in different, shapes and sizes on that. Where they,
right.
I know that I have outer sight and inner sight. And yours is yours inner sight?
I predominantly, my clairvoyance is subjective.
Okay.
However, I've had many instances of having objective experiences, and this actually confused me. I thought, how can this be possible? How can I see something that isn't there physically? Mm-hmm. Our eyes are manufactured or engineered to respond to photons. If something isn't giving off light, if it isn't reflecting light or emitting light, how can my physical eyes see it? That was something that really, really confused me, and it caused me to doubt myself. Mm-hmm. And so I learned that our eyes are very interesting in that they see in many different ways. For instance, there is something called blindsightedness, and there's a few different kinds of blindsightedness. But blindsightedness, in short of it, is when a person is physically incapable of seeing an object. The light enters the eye, it does nothing, they're blind. However, they can see movement. And that's interesting.
That is interesting.
And so I thought, well, that's really interesting. And then, of course, you have a lot of, well-known experts and teachers and things who say, well, they taught themselves how to see spirit because they see spirits out of the corners of their eye. And I thought, I don't know if I can say this on radio, but that is the greatest load of BS I've ever heard in my life. If something is there, it's there. You don't need to see it out of the corner of your eye.
Right.
People talk about, they see angels or they see spirits out of the corners of their eye. Wonderful. That's just so interesting, But the truth of the matter is, when I actually researched that, and I researched it by going online, by reading books, and I actually corresponded with a gentleman who is several years ago now, I forget what his name was or the exact department, but I was corresponding with Harvard University, and there was a lab there that dealt with eye diseases and and the eyes. And so I had this person. I don't know if he was a research assistant or a doctor or who he was. Could have been the janitor for all I know. But
Right.
he was nice enough to correspond with me many, many times, and I would ask him questions, and he would answer them back, and it was really, really great. And so what I learned was the cells on the outer edge of the eye do in fact respond to movement. And so I thought, okay, well that's interesting. So it came time where I began to sort of train myself to be more sensitive to movement. And when I would then receive information, I would ask questions, and sure enough, I began to validate these things and being able to see spirit by its movement or by its outline, and also seeing things completely objective as a solid physical form. It's interesting. I'm not going to pretend to fully understand how it works, but a long-winded answer to your question. That's my favorite way to answer questions.
Okay,
long-winded.
Good. That's fine.
Is that I have had many, many circumstances where I've seen things objectively, but in heightened states of sensitivity. In normal readings these days, I see things internally. I do get information externally from time to time.
Okay.
But during the period where I was seeing many and most things objectively, I was following a very strict diet. I was keeping to a very rigid schedule of meditation, and really I was like a calf in like a piece of veal, in a box with all these conditions on myself.
Jack, is it the same with when you're hearing spirits, though? Is that the voice of your own, or do you hear their voices?
Both. We all have our own individual little mind voice, of course.
Yeah.
But that gives us information. But no, I do get information via. I would get it directly at times, but then I started employing. I never was one to believe in spirit guides and things like that, or spirit helpers. I just personally didn't believe in it. And I had someone explain to me why once in a reading, and I bought into that explanation. But then eventually, as I started doing this work publicly and going out on different cases and things, I would often find myself a little overwhelmed. So even if I thought I was imagining it, I thought I need to have someone who's going to kind of work as a gatekeeper. And so once I employed that method of having a spirit guide or a gatekeeper, it began to limit the access to my mind, and I would mostly hear things in my own familiar mind voice.
Because I'm okay. The fact is that I've kind of accepted the fact of some of the things I hear with my own voice, but I'm not real comfortable with hearing Spirit's voice. I actually do work with the guide, and they go through them.
Mm-hmm.
I kept it that way because I kind of felt like I was teetering on that schizophrenia where I was hearing voices. It really bothered me.
Well, that's a very real fear, and probably a healthy fear to have, and I think that lends itself to having healthy skepticism. I've had several conversations with my friend Barry, and Barry Tabb, about this kind of thing. And in a recent conversation, we were talking about something. I was asking him about something called primary process. And primary process is in essence, it's like a firewall. And I hope I'm getting this right.
Okay.
I'll hear it if I'm not.
Okay.
But this is my take on it. And it is a way that our individual consciousness is separated from the non-physical universe. And of course, I'm kind of metaphysicalizing, this definition. But we read in some of the writings of C.W. Ledbetter and some of these folks that have come before us, they talk about the layers of consciousness and the membranes and things that separate the different universes, as they say, the levels of heaven or the levels of consciousness. And what I like to talk about is, I think that one layer for us, closest to us, maybe it guards us mentally and emotionally, is what's called primary process. And I think that if that layer, if that barrier, if that primary process is permeable, or if it's permeated, you do begin to get schizophrenic type experiences, voices, bad advice, antagonistic feelings, things like that. I had a very good friend of mine, and his brother some time ago was an undiagnosed schizophrenic, and he had problems for many years in his relationships. And finally, he and his wife had to divorce because he just, he wasn't capable of maintaining a healthy relationship. Of course, there's more things to it than that, but
right.
he ended up eventually being hospitalized and getting the well-needed help that he needed, and became medicated. And once he was lucid and he was medicated, it was interesting that he was just there was a kindness in his eyes that wasn't there before, and he's just a wonderful guy anyway. And we were able to talk, and then I said, "What was it like?" And coincidentally, he didn't know that this is before I was kind of publicly doing what I do. And he said, "It's very strange." He said, "It's like walking through a bus station or a train station, and you walk through the crowd, and you can hear everyone talking. And you might get, bits of a conversation here and there." He goes, "But it's overwhelming. And occasionally someone will shout in your ear, like do something horrible, or they tell you bad things about yourself or about your wife or what's going on." And I thought that was really interesting because, number one, is how awful. But number two is that I had this conversation during a time when I was really pursuing my own development, and I was really seeking answers to a lot of different things. And I identified 100% with what he was talking about, because I would, when I would open myself up psychically, I would hear mumblings. It would be mumbles of conversation, things I have to sort of really lean into to try to understand. And then, of course, once I tuned out and, out of my psychic awareness, that would disappear. And I thought, how awful to have to live like that, And so it underscores the importance of maintaining a healthy mental and emotional life. And it underscores the importance of maintaining a healthy boundary between us and the next world.
I agree on that. And you're right there. And it's sad to say that we're maybe we're the lucky ones on some aspect, Jack, that we recognize this as being psychic information, psychic gifts that follow with this. And though all others who are going through this, who have still not clued into maybe that this is part of it, and then still being diagnosed as schizophrenia. I mean, not to say that that is out there, and surely it is, and there's other signs of schizophrenia besides the fact of just hearing the voices.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't doubt that there could be some out there that are being treated for schizophrenia who are just hearing the voices. It might not be something of a disease, that they have.
Well, that's a very interesting question. Of course, neither of us are really uniquely qualified to go into that too deeply, but
right.
I will say this, is that there is an inherent danger in pursuing psychic work. I've experienced it personally. I've experienced, emotional, fluxes. I've seen it with other people. I've seen it in development circles, and I've seen it with other practitioners. And I think there's two things. The two things I'd like to say about this. The first thing is that
let me stop you there just for a quick second, because we're in a virtual auditorium too, and there's tons of questions being thrown at us there.
Okay, you want to take some questions?
Let's get them. Angela Thomas, who's our other host of the show, wants to ask Jack whether or not he has ever encountered a spirit that has had a mental illness or appeared to be off in some way. Would the firewall he was speaking about come across spirits with schizophrenia?
Okay. Let me clarify.
Okay.
The firewall that I'm speaking about, the primary process, is a mental process. It's the process by which our mind keeps us self-contained as an individual. It's the process by which we are oriented mentally and emotionally in our physical bodies, in our physical worlds, conducting our physical lives, in a healthy way. So when I say firewall, it's because we are physical beings simultaneously leading non-physical lives. Okay? But our awareness is oriented here in the physical world. As a psychic, you hopefully are being trained to shift your awareness from your physical body to your non-physical body. That's all it is. It's nothing else. It's nothing more. Shifting your awareness from your physical senses to your non-physical senses. Okay?
Okay.
So, what...
And Angela's saying, she's clarifying that a mental process is self-contained. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. So what you're shifting is, imagine in your mind's eye you're stepping over a line or stepping through a gate. You're in the physical world, your awareness is in the physical world, and then you step through that gate, and your awareness is now in the non-physical world. The gate that separates the physical from the non-physical is your primary process.
As we understand that.
As we understand it.
As we understand it.
Right.
Okay.
And so what I'm saying is that a person who might have mental, have maybe some emotional problems or maybe schizophrenic or mental illness, they might have holes in that fence, gaps in that fence, where people who live in the non-physical world can intercede into the physical world, into their conscious awareness, when their daily conscious awareness. They're not controlling the situation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It does.
Now, ask me your question again, because I want to make sure I answer it.
Okay. Okay, let me get back to her question again. Okay, that was, okay, no, you did answer that, because she did clarify. She said thank you for that. She understood it.
Okay.
But let's move on then, because I have other questions, and I want to get all this in. Okay, let me go back to where I'm at. Okay, you know what, quickly on this, if psychic gifts were not a part of your life today, what else would you be doing in your career?
Well, that's interesting. I'd be doing exactly what I would what I am doing. I didn't grow up thinking I was going to do this, publicly or even professionally.
Okay.
I grew up and I wanted, as a young kid, I wanted to be a performing artist. I would have loved to have been, a dancer or some kind of gone into musical theater or something, to be perfectly frank. I also wanted to be a pilot when I was a kid, and I wanted to go into the military and be a pilot. But I'm too tall to be a pilot, and I'm also a little too much of a creative thinker. But I didn't set out to be a psychic. In fact, I was pursuing a career as an actor, and I have been on TV, and I have done some straight-to-video type films, and I was a model for many years in Europe. When I was starting as a teenager, I modeled through Europe and was in New York and all kinds of places. And then I came back to Los Angeles, and I started pursuing a career in film and television. And it was during pursuing a career in film and television as an actor that I began to have intense psychic experiences. And it was interesting, is because what would happen was, anyone who's ever taken, serious dramatic training, you're essentially you're untraining yourself. And of course, in the Bible, they tell you to be like a little child, and that's not the only place. They tell you that in drama school too. They want to rekindle that innocence and that spontaneity of what it is to be a child, to be impulsive, to think, to go. And as an adult, we often limit ourselves. And, what would the neighbors think, and what would this da-da-da? We do that. So in drama school, they teach you to be spontaneous and connected and grounded, and so in that process of really monitoring what's called your inner dialogue, and in drama school, an inner dialogue is basically the thoughts and feelings and emotions of your character you're taking on. And so you anchor yourself in the scene by imagining and creating the circumstances that the writer has created for yourself, and then you live as if you would by imagining your this person, or how would you feel in this situation? And the person before you, are they a loved one? Are they this or that? How do you feel about them? And all those subtle nuances color the moments and create art. And so, as I was doing this, being mindful of my breath and staying present in the moment and following along and all these wonderful things, I began to receive psychic information from the people I was working with.
You're a deep guy, Jack. You know what? You really are. I mean, you really do. To me, you notice everything. You notice everything around you, and you think about it, and you process it through on it. And I want to go on further with this because you were chosen to work with the Associated Press on doing predictions.
Right.
That's a lot of pressure giving predictions. Have any of them come true yet?
Many of them came true. Not all, but I have them sealed in an envelope in my office here somewhere in the house, and I'm going to look at them at the end of the year. But on the top of my head, there's 2 or 3 or 4 that have absolutely come true. And the funny thing was, Eric and I were preparing for Ghost Fest last year, and AP was there covering the ship, and I went to them, pushing Ghost Fest on them. Do a story about Ghost Fest, and then we were planning on kind of building a functioning paranormal research center on the ship, and hopefully we're going to have it done in a few months. And we were developing a TV show together and things, and I thought, well, this would be great publicity for the ship, get the research center, and maybe they want to do a story. And he said, well, call me when you get the research center up and running. So that'd be great. And so then, like a month or so later, this same producer gets an assignment, and he calls me and said, hey, do you know any psychics who'd be willing to do predictions? And I said, well, I have a friend who does them. And he said, well, would you want to do it? And I said, well, all right, sure. And so my friend, who deals with many, many celebrities and things, he did sort of some fun kind of celebrity predictions, and then, I kind of did some more straight news predictions, And it's funny, I didn't really feel the pressure at all, because if I try to worry about whether or not it's going to be right or accurate or whatever, the key to doing psychic work is being emotionally clear. And if I allowed myself to get worried about how I was going to look or how it was going to be received, I never could have done it.
Do you have a prediction for the war that's going on in our Middle East, Jack?
They did ask me that. They said, when do you think we're going to be out? And if I'm not, I had to look at my notes, but I think it was something, they wanted to know if we'd be out by the end of the year, and I said no. I think I said it was going to be, we did the predictions in 2006, so I think it was sometime at the end of 2008 or early 2009, I think I said. But one thing regarding our troop movement, which actually did come true, he asked me, he said, what's along the same lines of what you're asking. I said, this coming year, I said it's going to look like a troop withdrawal, but what's actually going to be, there's going to be more of a rotation. It's going to be a rotation of troops. And so, of course, we now know that, of course, Bush last winter pushed for an additional 30,000 troops. And then in August, coming up to some of these, under pressure, he's like, oh, we're bringing 30,000 troops home,
Right.
So there you go. There's
right.
the rotation. And I don't want to, there were several other things that came true that Eddie and I both were hit on. But that was in relation to your question. That was one.
That's a good thing, Jack. The fact is, and also, too, on the flip side of that, when you are given predictions, and the fact is that something horrific that happens that you give a prediction about, there's that, flip side of the coin by saying, this is something that I wish it wasn't true. I don't want it to be true, but the fact of it is, I am getting these psychic predictions. I'm getting these impressions of what I feel is going to happen. Do you ever get predictions on yourself?
No. Yes. Well, in typical fashion, I can't answer that question without going into a long-winded answer.
That information?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just asking, or the fact is, if you do you also trust that information? Go ahead.
No. Yes and no. We all have intuition.
Yes.
And you don't have to be psychic to have intuition. And what we have is we have intuition about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We can look at our circumstances. We can see how we feel. We can see, I know this doesn't feel right to me. I don't think this is good. But, we also know that, every one of us has been in situations where we say, oh, this doesn't feel good. Whether it's a relationship or a job or whatever, this doesn't feel good. But we stay in it anyway.
Right.
We go against our intuition, and that's just part of being human. We do things that are familiar and that feel safe. And we do things because we might have motivations to change things or what have you. So that's just life. That's not psychic, or, it is. Psychic information is impossible to get about oneself. It's impossible because we are not objective. The only way to receive true psychic information and be really clear is by being objective. And because we are emotionally involved with ourselves,
Right, true.
we're unable to be objective.
Well, and then too, if it's information that you don't like, I have to say I would try to avoid it.
Well, but that too, the very notion that you approve or disapprove of something is based on your preferences, on your emotional needs, and your opinions, and what feels good to you. So therein lies a lack of objectivity.
Right. I agree with you on that. I agree
Yeah.
on that. So, Jack, you mentioned that you have a couple projects in the works. Can you talk about any of those?
Yes, well, there's one thing I'm excited about, which myself, Lloyd Arbach, and a few other folks are on hold, waiting to hear about a show for the Discovery Channel.
Okay.
And it's being developed. It's going to happen. We're all just waiting to see, how and to what extent we're going to be involved. Other than that, it's premature to really discuss anything, but it's a wonderful opportunity. Whether I'm involved with it or not, I hope it's very successful, and I hope that the network and the production company are overly pleased with the way it turns out. I am excited about it. I think it'd be a lot of fun. It's going to be traveling and doing some really cool things. So I hope that it goes through, and it'd be fun to do it with Lloyd. He's really a great guy, a lot of fun, and
He's all over the place.
Yeah, he's been doing this for a very long time. He's been appeared on more than 100 TV shows. He's got tons of books, and Lloyd really knows how to get out there and make things happen. So he's a good guy.
I believe we're having an associate of his on the show in a couple weeks. I'm not sure what's my host. Angela, who is that? Pam Heath or Health? Heath. Pam Heath. I think she's an associate of his.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to, Pam Heath. That will be on the show in a couple of weeks. So I spoke with him a couple of weeks ago, actually, on it. And he was out going and on his way doing something else. And if he comes down here where I'm at, he's going to stop by. I have a lot of activity in my own home. And
actually, he called me about that. Or
he did.
He emailed me about that. Yeah.
Yes. And the fact is that me living here, it's like a doctor. The doctor doesn't treat themselves. They have somebody else. And the same, is what I keep putting my opinion out there. It's like, it's very hard for me to be objective when I live here.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not this is the ghost spirit activity or the fact that it's psychic phenomenon. It's the difference between it. But I do have, and finding the right people, and that's what I've been looking for, the right people to come in and do some filming in this this bathroom I have. It's a very large bathroom, and there's a shower, which we don't use anymore because of it. This portal that seems to open up is just absolutely amazing, and I did some filming the other night with it, but it's unbelievable. And what you're able to catch on film with it is I think, it is unique itself, because you can actually see on film one spirit, one ghost after another coming through here constantly. And the images and the mirages they put, they become first before they actually are able to ground themselves, and then being able to see them clearly. But it's just, it's not just the psychic eye that's being able to pick up this portal doing this. It's actually with the camera is catching everything also. So, and hopefully I'll be able to get, if he said that he either himself or he'll pass it down to somebody down here that would be able to come in and give me their opinion on what they feel it is. But it's definitely bigger than I am, is what I say, and I need to step back away from that. So we got on that. So we've got a few more minutes left here. This was so fast, jacking on it, and I didn't get a chance to even ask you half the stuff I really wanted to. But I do want to ask quickly on this. With you being on the Queen Mary, do you feel that the spirits there, that it's more residual energy left there, or is it, I just noticed there's a change of difference of the activity there. Is it the activity going lower, and people are not being able to see so much of it in the upper levels of the ship? Is it residual? I mean, it just doesn't seem, maybe it's just, this is just my own opinion, but I just wanted to get your opinion on it.
Well, for the record, as of today, I have no association with the Queen Mary any longer.
Oh.
But I will say this, is that I do know that they've changed a lot of their social programs on the ship.
Okay, yeah.
And so they have a nightclub, and actually apparently during Ghost Fest they had some kind of band festival, during Ghost Fest even. And so, there's a tremendous amount of energy being expended and sounds and sound vibrations and things like that. So maybe it's disturbing some of the subtle energies of the ship. Could be, so that could be, that could
be very well what is going on.
Very well maybe affecting some of the experiences people have on there, because, by and large, hauntings or paranormal experiences are highly subjective, and really, unless something's really just incredible, you need a certain stillness or quietness or darkness or what have you in order to facilitate the experiences of feeling haunted or seeing things, whatnot. And Erica was actually one of the wonderful things, there's many wonderful things that she did on the Queen Mary. If anyone's ever taken her tours, which I believe she still gives them Friday through Sunday, people should check them out. And if they say they heard us recommend this, because she's a wonderful hostess and she's a very talented and gifted psychic, she helps people kind of quiet themselves and have experiences of their own on the ship. It's very, very cool what she does.
Well, she's very soft-spoken. I know that when I spoke with her, I felt around her energy, she's very soft-spoken, very calm, very nice lady, very beautiful, nice lady.
Yes,
actually,
she is.
She's got I would say she's got a huge ship to run, and that's in itself for only one lady. There's an awful lot of ghost activity for one lady to do this.
The ship is really a unique situation, and I think a lot of the things that go on there can be logically explained. For instance, some of the banging and some of the noises that are heard. I think that because the ship is made of steel, it's floating in water. It's not. I think it's possible it's not properly grounded. There's a lot of rampant static charge or electromagnetic energy that maybe charge a bulkhead and then be released, and it creates a sound wave and that kind of thing. But in the center of the ship, in the pool, Erica, myself, and Pat, and another team one day were tracking the pool, each with compasses on, creating a static line and walking through. And we're all parallel with one another, or rather, in line with one another. And as we walked, only 20, 30 feet apart from one another, each of us had a completely different compass reading. There's bizarre readings in that ship, and there's strange flows of electromagnetic energy, which I think, that studies have shown that the effects of EMF can cause people to have auditory hallucinations or sensory hallucinations and things, and make them feel being watched, or all the things that are typical haunting emotions and haunting experiences. So that's actually, those things could arguably be explained that way. But there are things that have happened on the ship that cannot be explained that way, and we don't know why these things happen or what their relation is to the energies that we do know of, like EMF and GRF type readings. We don't know what these, or GMF I should say, what these energies are that are ghosts or what have you, or how they relate to the energy we do know of. But I'll say this: I was one of Erica's tours last spring, and she was giving her talk to the people, and I was standing there. Of course, I've heard this many, many times, and I was just enjoying the company of being there with her. And I was sort of out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move, and I turned my head, and I see a man in coveralls walking along a gangway or a gangplank or whatever it is, in amongst the machinery in the engine room. And I thought, how the hell did that guy get back there? He's not supposed to be back there. You know, he was only maybe 6 or 7 feet away from me,
right,
but he was outside the railing where anyone's supposed to be walking. And so I turn and see him. He walks. He steps behind a big hunk of machinery, and I was going to say something to him when he stepped out the other side. He didn't. And then a security guard walks up right on the same path, and he looks at me, and he said, "Where'd the guy go?" And I said, "What?" He goes, the guy that I was following him. What's he do? Where'd he go?" And I just smiled at him. I said,
"It was a ghost." Oh my God.
We both saw it. We both saw him, and so that. How do you explain that?
I don't know,
the
but I know
odds
that.
of two people having the same hallucination are just
It's not. It's just
crazy,
imagination, huh? That's one of my favorite things, about this stuff. It's just, mind-blowing away things that you just can't, never in your life would you think that you experienced on it. Okay, we've got about 3 minutes left. So are you still working at the Learning Light in Anaheim, California?
I don't work at the Learning Light, but I do take appointments there from time to time.
Okay, so you're still doing readings there?
I do. Right now, I'm not doing readings there. I was doing them all summer. If I actually just got a request for a reading this morning, but I'm not doing them right now. I also schedule appointments up in Pasadena as well.
Okay.
You can go to my website and see that I schedule readings in Pasadena as well.
Okay. So if for those of our listeners who want to connect with you to do a reading,
mm-hmm.
then they go to your website, and that's the way they'll be able to contact you?
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way. Or they can. There's also two phone numbers on there for the two places that I do read for or do read at.
Okay.
There's that too. So, yeah.
And that's at www.jackrourke.com, and they can find all that information too on our website. As you said, no, it's not. You don't have to do a web page. Well, we do a web page. We do that for all of our guests, and and that's a good way. And we get a lot of requests after the show, and sometimes they know where to find us, but they don't remember always where to find you at, so they can always go back to the portal site and get that information there for you on that. And Jack, we've got a minute left, and this has been really great.
I thought you had me for 2 hours, so there you go.
We would love to have you for 2 hours. It seems like it's been that long, on it. It's just, we had a couple questions we didn't get to, but I promise you guys, we'll see if we can get Jack on again soon and stuff. And I have to say one quick thing on this. I did speak with Dr. Barry Taff. He's been one of our guests also on the show, and he called you a breath of fresh air.
Oh.
He really spoke highly of you. There wasn't, everything he spoke about you, Jack. He likes you immensely. He really thinks you're a very talented and gifted man. He also wants me to say happy birthday.
Oh, actually, incidentally, today is his birthday.
Today is his birthday.
So I spoke to Barry last night, and again, happy birthday to Barry. We're gonna have lunch this week or something, but that's very nice. Yeah, my birthday's in a couple of days, and Erica's is also this week too. So happy birthday, Erica. And we
have our host Angela Thomas, whose birthday was yesterday, and we have Linda Montaldo, whose birthday's coming up soon, if not today or tomorrow, who's the station manager's wife, and it's her birthday today. So lots of people in October.
Libras are good people.
These are good people. Her birthday was yesterday. Well, thank you, Eula. Her birthday was yesterday, so it is good people. So on that note, we'll let you go, and thank you so much for joining us on it, and hopefully we'll have you back soon.
Sure. If you have any questions, if there's anything else you wanted to ask me, we can go.
Wonderful. Well, we're good there. We've got Angela Thomas coming on. We've got another guest scheduled for that.
Fantastic.
On it. But if you promise, and I'm going to hold you to it, Jack, that we can. That you can come back and do more with us there, because we've got, said that a lot of people are asking questions and stuff, and, you're a great guy.
Great. Well, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
Okay, we'll go to break, and we'll come back. We'll have Angela Thomas and myself on. We'll have Angela Thomas and myself on.
Tuesday night with Angela Thomas. Portal Paranormal Talk Radio. Go to www.portaltalkradio.com.
Okay, back.
Okay.
Call it. Get it fast. Hi, welcome back, and I'm Tuesday Miles.
And I'm Angela Thomas.
Welcome, Angela Thomas.
Well, thank you very much, Tuesday. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. We kind of switched it around today, where usually you're on in the very beginning, and we go through our whole show process and everything first, and then we have our guests, and we had to kind of switch it around, and our shows have been a little chaotic lately.
Well, I tell you what, I really enjoyed listening to your interview with Jack Rourke.
You know, I did too. I had asked him a couple times, and finally, I guess on the third time was the charm, and got him to come on for an interview. And you know, Jack really intrigued me when I met him last year. He's a very conservative man. You would never know it, but you know, I mean, he's a very handsome man, and I didn't want to bring that up to him while on the show and embarrass him.
He is that.
Very handsome.
But you know, maybe it takes some good looks to do paranormal investigations.
Well, I have to say, you know, I mean, he's you know, I'm not gonna. He's not a pretty man. He's a very handsome man, and so I wish him luck in his journey on doing his acting. I would watch him on television myself, because the fact is that, you know, we always like to have handsome men on TV, and kind of makes our day get, you know, worthwhile on it. And so,
well, we're just going to have to read for Jack about this discovery opportunity.
Yes, we will.
That would be very nice. We ought to do that for him.
Yes, we will have to do that. Can you remind our listeners where they can catch our show at and our website?
Well, absolutely. Well, if you are listening to Portal Paranormal Talk Radio, also know that you can hear us on AOL Radio, MSN Radio, Tricom, Aussie Chat, Live 365, BBC Radio, just to name a few.
Mm-hmm.
If you are listening, you also may wish to join our website at portaltalkradio.com. We have a lot of information about today's guest and a lot of ghost pictures and things of that nature. If you have any questions or have any comments for the guest or ourselves, just call toll-free in the United States, 877-786-0562.
Thank you very much. And so I'm going to say this, and I apologize in advance. Happy birthday.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
And yesterday was your birthday. Well, actually, I always say it's the birthday week we get. You know, you should always have a birthday week. But yesterday was your birthday. We have quite a few other birthdays, too. We have Linda, who is our station manager's wife. Her birthday is today.
I know. Happy birthday, Linda.
Happy birthday, Linda. Well done. Yay, we made it another year.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of fine October babies out there.
There sure seems to be, honest. Now, does that make you a Capricorn? What are you?
No, I'm a Libra.
A Libra. Excuse me, a Libra. Tell us, what is a Libra about?
Well, you know, generally they say that a Libra is about peace and harmony and justice. Ones that are very sensitive to their environment, especially lighting. And I have to tell you, in that case, that is exactly me. I'm very touchy about lighting. I want beautiful surroundings, and I definitely want that peace of mind.
You definitely like that peace of mind on it. And so, do you find that at Libras, this might help you with your own gifts? I'm not sure about, I don't know a lot about Libras. Is Libras, would they be known to be very sensitive?
Yes, they are very sensitive, especially, you know, in the ways of psychic sensitivity, so intuition sensitivity. And so, you know, Libra does have the ability to see both sides of the fence, and also, you know, both sides being this side and the spiritual side. So a lot of Libras that I know, peers, you know, that you and I both know, that are Libras, and, of course, you know, their moon sign and their ascendant sign would certainly enhance their heightened awareness of sensitivity. It just depends on what their ascendant or their moon sign is. But certainly, Libras are very, very good, especially good debaters, those that, you can have a chaotic situation, and you can throw a Libra. Send in a Libra.
Send in a Libra, okay.
If you have chaos, send in a Libra, because a Libra will certainly calm things down.
I'm sorry, okay, on it, but you were born in, it says here, in Warner Robins, Georgia.
Warner Robins, Georgia, absolutely.
And, I have to say, you do have an accent. I mean, even though I'm in California and you're, I'm going to say that you're the Georgia girl, you do have an accent. You do have a Southern accent.
Well, I do have a Southern accent, Tuesday, but it's not really a Georgia accent. I was there for the first 6 years of my life.
Okay.
And then I moved to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and then for years I was between the Gulf Coast and New Orleans, Louisiana. They're only 1 hour apart. And I've lived all over the country, but mainly in the South. And so you're hearing a blend of all places.
A blend of all places, okay. And you were a survivor of Hurricane Katrina.
Yes, certainly. And what a storm. I tell you, those people down there are still having a tough time, especially along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and, of course, in New Orleans as well. But, just keep those people in your thoughts, in your prayers, and any types of donations that you may feel that you would like to contribute. Certainly, there is a need down there. But, I relocated to the St. Louis, Missouri area, so I'm very happy that I did, and I've been up here about 2 years. Mm-hmm.
Now, most people don't know about you. You've written 2 books.
I have, Tuesday, but I have yet to seek publication. And I think that is probably the perfectionist side of me, which is another Libra trait, by the way. I keep on wanting to add and to revise, even though I say it's finished, it's done. But I've written one on three-dimensional tarot, which is a method that I created, and it's an intuitive tarot method, by the way. And then I've also written Developing Your Psychic Abilities, a fast-track guide to enhancing your gifts. And so even though I have to tell you that anyone out there that is pursuing their psychic abilities and their psychic training, my course and my book absolutely helps to get them jump-started very quickly. But I'm always, recommending that those in the psychic world continue their education and, find yourself a mentor and someone strong and stick with it because, we all learn something new every day, and it's very important to learn the proper methods for discipline and self-control.
I agree with you on this. You also are a columnist.
I am. I have
Angela, Insights for Your Life.
The Ask Angela Insights for Your Life column, and I've been publishing that since 2004. And before Katrina, I had my column in newspapers, but afterwards I've just been publishing exclusively online, and that's another thing that I really need to focus on, is getting back into the whole newspaper thing, because it is my ambition to syndicate that column.
And I have to say, Angela, people, where they used to have, oh gosh, no, I was trying to remember what that woman's name was that she used to write a column. It was Jean Dixon, where she did the astrology, she did the horoscopes, But I truly believe also too that there's a need for that. I mean, and I would not be surprised, and I'm going to use this as a prediction that you will one day have that Ask Angela, column in a regular press.
Good. Well, I want it to be syndicated like Dear Abby.
It should be. It should be. I think I would write to you for advice.
Well, I get a lot of emails with a lot of questions, and of course, I select a few for the publication itself every month. And you would be surprised how many people do need an intuitive to answer the question. So I'm not for a lack of questions, that's for sure.
Well, during this last week, Angela pulled out her tarot cards for me, which her and I she's never done this. She's never read for me before. And I'm going to have to say, Angela, that you just about blew my socks off, because there was some information that you brought forward for me that nobody would have known about. In one particular, some particular information that Angela brought forward was, she mentioned and I just thought this was completely off the wall. She mentioned Disneyland. Now, mind you that I have a child that just absolutely adores Disneyland. But the fact is that I wasn't sure whether or not it was for both of my kids. I wasn't sure if the information that you were given to me was about my daughter. Mm-hmm. My daughter has an opportunity to do some work with Disney, or if it was about my son, and because he has this dream about being in one of their parades.
Oh,
and so
wonderful.
I wasn't sure about where that was going to go with this. And I have to say that it was for my son and the parade. And I knew this was going to be a hard thing to accomplish, is to really get Disney to cooperate about fulfilling the wish of a kid and allow him on one of their floats during the parades. But the message that you had given me, the fact is it's not been easy for me to do this, but I got a call from Disney.
Really?
And I thought, oh, well, go figure, because I should have said to them right off the bat on the conversation, well, my psychic told me that I was going to ask.
Yeah, I knew you would be calling. That's funny.
So I'm going to have to say that came true.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I remember reading for you, and, of course, Tuesday, I have to say that when I deliver messages, the memory of it goes very, very quickly. So it's not until, like you are doing now, kind of bringing me back to recall. But I do remember, I don't know why I started to read for you. I just felt like I had to. And, last week I was very sick.
Yes, you were.
So, and my voice sounds a little strange today still, but...
Oh, no, it doesn't. It sounds perfect.
Regardless, I don't know. I just had to read for you, and I just said, I've got to pass along these messages.
Well, this is the thing, and if any of you please take the opportunity, the time, really, to get a reading from Angela. You can go to her website, October 13th Baby, and contact her that way, or you can use the portal website also too, and contact her. But you are so detailed in your card readings, and you take this time, and each message that you bring forward in this is absolutely amazing. And I find that the fact is that you have, I don't feel that these cards are tools of you anymore. I really, truly believe that you and these cards psychically connect with each other. And
We do. I have to tell you, I use them as a tool, and, I do the intuitive tarot readings, but I'm not relying on the cards, So if anybody's ever had a tarot reading, you know that many of tarot readers out there will read card for card, and, like this card says blah, blah, blah. But I just use it as a tool, and as a psychic clairvoyant, that tool just enhances those details. And that, I believe, Tuesday, is the difference. That's why I wrote the book about three-dimensional tarot, because I really want those psychics out there and those tarot readers to learn a method in which that, will become, something great for them. Because, people want to hear the details. They don't really want to hear generalities. They want specifics.
Right.
And that method allows psychics to give specifics.
And you were giving specifics, and you were spot on.
Yeah,
those
yeah.
specifics. And it was, and I have to say that I've had others read for me with their cards, and they weren't even close to what, they weren't. I mean, maybe they had an off day, not to mock anybody else with them, but I have to say, Ellen, that you were uniquely different on this, and you made a believer out of me with the cards.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I know, and I'm not even going to go into a reading with you now, but certainly I definitely want to read for your daughter.
Oh, thank you.
Because there is a lot of things to say before she gets started. A lot of detail I need her to know before she makes any moves.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for that. I would love to have somebody else parent her for a while. You know, I mean, to me, that's just how close of the information that you're getting here, because you do say the fact is that you have a very close connection through prayer and meditation with God.
Yes.
And you know, and this is what I like about with you, because you are a very spiritual person.
I am that, yes. I absolutely love God, and I love the Scriptures. And, you know, I think, Tuesday, that it goes hand in hand with what we're doing. You know, a lot of people find, you know, or at least their belief system is that is an opposition of, you know, following Scriptures or God's Word. But in my world, in my reality, and in my work, time after time I see His Spirit moving through me, and He just brings in incredible information. And before I do any type of reading, I always pray, and I always ask, if I am not meant to see this, if I am not supposed to know it or to deliver the message, then don't let me see it at all. And there have been a few times, I have to say, that I have gone to do a session with someone, and absolutely zero came. Not the first sound, not the first sight. And if I looked at a card, I couldn't even tell you what a meaning would be. It all appears blank, like white sheets of paper. So that's the heavy influence. So I always say, okay, for those people, which has been a rarity, but it's still, you know, it's very important when you pray. You know, when you pray, be careful for what you pray for.
Okay.
And so, but I always love that, the fact that, you know, I know that He's guiding everything. And so if there's not a message to deliver whatsoever, then either A, we'll reschedule at another time, or B, we'll just forget about it. So, but that doesn't happen too often. But when it does, I still say thank you very much.
Well, of course, on that. And, you know, I mean, it's, you know, and on your website, and I'm trying, because I know that you have reformatted your website, and I'm trying to look for my special spots I like on here. There's some scriptures that you had written down on here that had to do with psychics and God.
Yes.
And that was in the Bible. Is that still on your site?
Yes, it is. I have actually 2 pages devoted just to biblical scripture, and certainly I want to add more and more to it. But, you know, I think it's important for those to understand that psychics are not some evil person going against the wishes. That, you know, just like in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, and, well, it's verse 8 through 10, it really becomes very specific about those gifts that we all have. And that includes psychic abilities. You know, it doesn't say psychic ability. It talks about special gifts of knowledge that we have for faith, or gifts in healing, or miraculous powers, or prophecy. It even goes on to say about distinguishing between spirits. And there's, you know, just a number of gifts that we are given. So that's why I put it on there. And especially those, you know, I know, Tuesday, when I first started out, it was something, you know, all of this psychic ability came flooding towards me as I got older. And I was torn between whether or not to pursue my passion for it, because I thought, ooh, this would be going against God. And so it took me quite a few years to study through the scriptures and pray about it before I ever took the first step out.
Well, you know, on that also too, and what I noticed is that, you know, because why I bring this up is because the other day was listening to another show, and we won't mention the name of it, but someone had made a comment about that it was just evil, plain evil for psychics to have any information, and then stated that it was not written in the Bible, that in fact it was evilness. And I thought, no, I kind of know better than that. I've actually read where, and I had to say that if you look on your site, that you'll be able to find information there that has actually noted that there was acknowledgement of psychics in the Bible. And
absolutely, just go to the site map, and you'll see all of the pages, and just go to biblical scriptures.
Yes, there you go on that. And actually, you can get that again at www.october13thbaby.com.
Yeah, OCT.
And you also do predictions too.
I do predictions, and part of my 2007 and 2008 predictions are on the site. plus I have the 2005, 2006 predictions there as well.
Okay.
And, you know, I've tracked all of the predictions that I've done in the past and placed a link to the story or to the video or, you know, to like CNN or NBC or whomever covered the story.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I always document the time that I give that prediction so that one knows that, hey, I didn't rush on the website and just type in after the fact.
Right, right. And in fact, it's you're coming up to almost a year in your. There is it? I know I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Is it Caspian Seas?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, where you're coming up on October 30th, where it says here, oil dilemmas within the regions find one withdrawing from the new agreement. Tensions rise in this area, and the threat of the oil is cut off.
Right. Well, see, I posted that in October 30th of 2006,
Mm-hmm.
but the prediction is actually for the 2007-2008 time frame.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I wanted to give the date that it was posted, and then, you know, it just clearly says 2007 to 2008 time frame. And even though that's a wide gap, sometimes it's very difficult to pinpoint the exact day or the exact month. Now, the closest I have to say that I've gotten in predictions to giving the exact time frame is the last quarter of the year, where I name in my 2006 prediction September, October, November, December. And it was something absolutely incredible. In fact, as it was happening, I thought, wait a minute, you know, I think I have a prediction on that. I saw the story on CNN, and I had to rush to my own website to read my own prediction, and
Right.
there it was.
You know,
So.
I mean, and in itself too, you know, to me, I also self know whether or not I don't know whether I don't do predictions, but the fact is that I'm shown sometimes some very tragic events that happen, and it's been unfortunately with airplane crashes, and so again, I had one that showed up, and actually they showed me the whole entire picture of it, and I'm not very fond of that. I am not very fond of it at all, and I have to say that. Why are we shown predictions? Why are we shown events ahead of time if there's not a whole lot we can do about it?
Well, you know, I believe that, you know, you and I can't do anything about it. But if we put the predictions out there and someone comes along and reads those predictions that are in the position or have the power to, you know, try to offset it or plan for it or divert it, then so be it. You know, we can only see it. We can only speak it, and then it's up to those individuals that are handling a specific situation for them to alter it. Now, certainly in plane crashes, we can't do that. But, you know, we often see things, and I know you do. You're a psychic as well. You see things in advance, such as your plane crashes. There's not anything you can do about it, but it's showing you ahead of time what you're going to be hearing and what you're going to be seeing. And certainly you can't go to an airline and say, listen, you know, that American Airlines flight such and such
Right.
is going to go down, so, or you need to up the maintenance. But you can put whatever you get about that on your site or, you know, email or whatever way you work, and then that's it. You've done your job.
I know, but I took it so personally. It was, you know, and it just, you know, and it felt like I felt the deaths of each person. There was 142 people on that plane, and I just felt like I had felt the deaths of each person that, you know, that died on that plane, and felt also too their family members who felt the pain of losing their loved one on that flight. And so, you know,
Right.
it wasn't something that was just, well, I predicted that and just I moved on. It wasn't, I couldn't take it as that. It took me more than a couple weeks to finally, you know, process it and accept the fact is that, okay, you know, I don't care whether or not they would have believed me or not. Maybe I should have called and said, look, you know, this is what I'm seeing, this is what, it's very clear, and be very adamant about it, saying, you know, this, you need to go look at this plane. There's something wrong with the landing gear on it. You need to look at it. And, you know, then I can release the responsibility of the fact is that I've given them the message. It's up to them to go and do what they want to do with it. If they want to take my credibility, they can. If not, they want to think I'm just another wacko out there. that's fine. But, I didn't do that. I didn't make the choice. I wasn't sure really what I was supposed to do with it. And you just made a very good example about it. Just, what we can do is post it, and if those who want to read it and maybe somebody that has involved with that plane, what it does something about it. And I think in the future that's what I will do, is post it and see what comes of it.
Well, I don't know if I shared with you or not, but, on my website I am able to go in and see, like what other websites or what other individuals are coming in. And that's basically for a marketing tool, as anybody would have on their website. But the Department of Defense has been visiting my prediction page quite a lot here lately. So, but if you remember Jean Dixon herself, when John F. Kennedy was president, contacted the president's office and said, and spoke with him because they had met on numerous of occasions, please do not go to Dallas, Texas. Don't go to Dallas, Texas. And he did anyway. And had he have listened to Jean Dixon, then naturally there would not have been an opportunity that same day to assassinate the president.
That would have changed the complete course of America.
Absolutely. And I feel that, there would have been, some other time for John F. Kennedy, because there were a lot of people out there, a lot of powerful people that did not want to see him in office. But for that particular week and that particular day, had he have just said, you know what, you're absolutely right, let's just forget about it, I'll reschedule, then, it would not have happened. So, but what do you say as a psychic? You can't call up the President of the United States. Although I have to tell you, a long time ago, I used to have an entertainment agency, and I represented a well-known psychic. And she asked me very specifically to contact Washington, D.C., and a high political figure. And I did not want to do it. I absolutely did not want to do it because I already knew, there's a zillion people calling up and saying, listen, I'm psychic, and this is about to happen. And a lot of people, whether in their right minds or not, give them a call. And I went ahead anyway. I just wrote a letter. I said, I'm not going to call. I'm going to write a letter.
Okay.
And do you know I got a phone call from a detective
No kidding.
in D.C., and when he announced his name, I said, you know what, I've been waiting on your call. He was shocked. And it was a high political family there, and what she predicted came around within 6 to 8 months.
Oh,
and so, but what do? You can only put it out there and say, this is what I'm getting, and the rest is up to you. It's your decision, because we cannot manipulate someone else's free will.
Right.
So, anyway.
But then again, even though, like you said, we can't manipulate somebody else's free will, can we change the course of the free will? Because had Jean Dixon been listened to, and the fact is that Kennedy was not assassinated, the events that it took place afterwards, after his assassination, is history in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if the fact is that we foreseen this happening and stopped it and changed it, what would be the world be today? The fact is that Kennedy was allowed to stay in office, and or still continue to stay in office. And so, it really would, I think, would have changed the world completely. That's not for us to do.
Well, right, you're absolutely right. It is not for us to do. But, just like I tell clients out there, the reason for a session with me, or for any psychic out there, is that you get to see the influences coming around the corner, mm-hmm. and you can plan for it or divert it. And, again, we cannot manipulate anybody's free will, and we certainly do not have the power to make them change their minds. Ultimately, we just don't. Can we call up and say, listen, I would like to talk to you about a particular area because this is what I'm getting? Absolutely, we can. But ultimately, a lot of people are going to do what they want to do, regardless. But at least I say, hey, you had the information beforehand.
Right. Right. I told you so,
Yeah, I never say I told you so. I never say it, you know.
Well, that, you know, whether you don't say it or think it, but, you know, I mean, it's out there. You know, in the virtual auditorium, we are getting our listeners that are all saying, happy birthday, October, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you so much. I see some wonderful people in the virtual auditorium, and I'm so glad that everyone is here.
Yes,
my favorite.
You know, and I want to say thank you to all those. I mean, we have our regular listeners that come in and they support us, and thank you for doing that. I really do appreciate it. We all really appreciate that on it. And, you know, and lots of comments here on it. And, you know, and it says here that, you know, and we have our station manager here, who's Joe Montaldo, and he's just a pain in the butt. And he's saying he's getting that Bush is an alien, and all the upper government is aliens. And Hillary is a reptilian.
Well, I'm just going to have to talk to Joe about what I know. You know, I have to tell you, there are several private groups online that go into the Department of Defense. And years ago, I used to participate in one of those groups so that those predictions could be given.
Mm-hmm.
And I just gave them and left it alone. And that way it got to whomever, you know, made the decisions.
You're right, yes.
Or whoever investigates that area. And I think that, you know, more psychics out there, you know, besides just working with clientele, I think that is a way that they can volunteer some of their time towards, you know, a higher endeavor. And it certainly does make a difference. You know, maybe no one knows what that prediction is going to the Department of Defense or whatever areas they decide to work in. But you know what? It affects the masses. I mean, it's not the psychic's ultimate decision one way or the other, but they get information that is extraordinarily valuable. And, you know, that value alone, that information alone, affects everyone. So, you know, I would have to encourage those psychics out there to step out and step forward and go ahead and just say it.
Right. You're right. Well, you know, I mean, and here it is again with that trust, though, Angela, because, you know, we get this information and we're thinking to ourselves, okay, this is where we have that trust issue. Is it that I'm hearing credible information from Spirit, or is it that I don't trust that yet? And so, you know, and that really has, you know, that has a big thing to being a psychic. You know, when you stop trusting, does your information stop being correct? Is it, you know, or is it on the flip side of it? It's just that you don't, you know, trust it enough to put it out there. What do you feel?
Well, you know, I trust the information that I get because I always say that I'm just the messenger. And so for what I've been familiar with, my messengers, I'll just call them, you know, I've worked with them long enough to know how they work. And I know the feelings, the rock-solid feelings that I get. Now, if there's some new information and a new messenger that's coming through, you know, I often test the spirit. And if it's a credible spirit, then, of course, I'm all ears. I want to work with you. But there's not too many times that I've felt on the fence about anything. If I ever feel anything on the fence, I never give the message.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I never give the message.
You know, and here's the thing, too, also, too, you know, I mean, sometimes that we do give these messages and the person cannot take it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get this email, about a couple weeks later, maybe a couple months later, saying, guess what? What I thought you weren't accurate, what I thought nothing of this pertains to me, guess what? It does.
Exactly. And I know exactly what you mean to say, because I do get that. And, you know, oftentimes I might say, hey, you know, and for those who know me, they've heard me say, hey, call me crazy, but, you know, I know this sounds a little strange and out of the ordinary, but here's the message. And some people say, you know, Angela, I've had sessions with you before and everything's come about, but, you know, it's just this one message you're giving me that I'm not quite sure of. I'm even unaware of it. Right. And I don't believe that all people know what's around the corner, because why would you need a psychic if you already knew what's coming around the corner? And so, but we eventually do. We eventually do give confirmation. And I always say, I want the confirmation. email me or call me and let me know, because it makes a huge difference to me.
True. Now, we had on Pal Talk, is paltalk.com, the other day there was a room opened up for Lisa Williams. Lisa Williams is actually a psychic high and rising up into her being famous. I would assume that call her that now. And, back when a couple months ago, Merv Griffin died. And I noticed that on some of the news reports of his death, he kept referring to his private psychic. And I guess now it's just coming out where Lisa Williams was his private psychic.
And who was the person that Lisa works with?
With Merv Griffin.
Oh, yeah, Merv.
Merv Griffin. I mean, who doesn't know Merv Griffin? I mean, he's famous for his Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. And, I mean, all over the place. Everybody knows who Merv Griffin is. And so the fact of it is that here it is. He's a very wealthy, rich man, and he's got himself a private psychic. And I thought that just to be interesting that here it is that, psychics don't have, they're really not just for people who are poor, people who are rich, but be surprisingly enough that you get people, governors and mayors and movie stars.
Absolutely. You would be surprised. I think the world would be surprised to know just how many high political people work with psychics. And, of course, they're not going to put it out there because, many people, make fun of psychics, some people, the non-believers. And so they don't want to have to deal with that. And I have clients that say, here's the confirmation. They email it to me or they call me with it. And I say, I would love to use that as a testimonial because I have about 6 pages of testimonials on my website.
Okay.
And some of them say yes, and the other ones say, oh, no, just don't, don't put my name out there. But I just wanted you to know.
Okay.
Okay. So I just want one of those politicians.
Right, and they're saying, okay, and they're mentioning Nancy Reagan here. Look what they said about Nancy Reagan and Ron for listening. Yeah, okay.
Exactly, Eula. They certainly did give a lot of problems to the Reagans when they just, discovered that they were using an astrologer. And so, but yeah, there's many people out there that utilize them, both, middle class all the way up to the very, very wealthy. And I find that some people use psychics for their business planning or their business negotiations or even their legal cases.
Right. I get asked that a lot about legal issues on it. And, sadly enough, is that when I'm asked about it, they want to also know the fact is that somewhere along the line their children have been taken from them. And and there's that, I have to set aside my personal feelings towards this because I think to myself, why would your children be taken away? I'm supposed to give you an answer whether or not you're going to be in court and you're going to have your children given back to you.
Right.
And here's that, that ethical point where I want to say, maybe the children are better left where they're at,
Well, when I do those sort of readings, I have to tell you, I just put it out there like it is, like I see it. And, it's difficult. I mean, I'm not going to point the finger in judgment because that's not my role. But I do put it out there to say, I wish you well on that. However, I let them know what the outcome is going to be.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. As you know, not everything is written in stone. There are situations that can be diverted. And so, again, the value of someone being in session with a psychic out there that can give them those influences so that they, let's say, for a legal case or child custody, can do what they need to do on their end. And, of course, I have to tell you, as a psychic, if I knew that a client was not a good parent, then I would not offer that information whatsoever. In other words, we don't want to use those messages for control and manipulation of others.
Right.
But, if you have somebody that you know is in an unusual situation, that is a good parent, a good provider, then, of course, that information for them to, let's say, tweak certain areas, and I think it's okay.
Now, you made a good point there about that, October. Well, Angela. I'm watching the screen in front of me, and I see October, Angela, because that is ethical. That's supposed to be our ethical, discipline on that. Indeed, can we give that message that says, well, and not knowing the complete background of somebody, give them that information that they could manipulate something that would not be the better good for them.
Exactly. But, you know already, though, Tuesday. I mean, when you're working with a client of yours, whether it's a new client or somebody that you've had for, let's say, the last 6 years, you already know because their vibration is already there. You're already being given the messages about their character, about everything. So you already know really who you're dealing with.
Exactly. You're right. Absolutely on that. And, and I often say, too, I mean, when I have a very emotional spirit come through, and I do, pre-warn my clients that, I am one that will allow the emotions to come through, be forewarned that, and sometimes I get a little bit of teary-eyed when they do, and I have to stop it in the middle of it and say, well, hold on here, let me have them step back because I don't want to cry through the whole reading.
Right.
I mean, it's not always beneficial for either one of us because the fact is that the clients, too, feel that emotions, and they're, and I have to say, even still today, even though as much as, and I hate to bring her name up, but, and Sylvia Brown does bring emotions, with her show on Montel, and she's, of course, people don't look for her as being as credible as she used to be, but that question still comes up. Are my family members okay? Are they okay
absolutely.
On the other side?
I have absolutely no fear of passing because I know what's on the other side. And, of course, I feel very blessed to be on this earth plane, with friends and family and to do whatever I'm here to do. But, when it comes time for that passing into a new life, I think it's brilliant. So, absolutely, if anybody has had someone dear to them that has passed, know that family member is doing wonderful. It's that family member that's concerned about you.
Right. Oh, absolutely. They don't miss us. We miss them. They're around you all the time.
Exactly.
So they can still hear you. They can still feel you. They can still know about what you're doing. And they are okay. I mean, how could they not be? And to think that we visualize them still as being in that human body, in that flesh of body. And it's not the case. That's not the case. There is that, that crossover. And you return to energy, and you have to think about, gosh, how can I visualize no longer a body being part of our lives, but that now you look like your energy? Mm-hmm. Well, they do bring memory back, and we're able to tune into that.
Well, I enjoyed the interview last week with Robert Brown, and he made a huge point about, those whose lives have passed here. It's just a rebirth into the new life. And I thought, isn't that fantastic? Is to say, we're passing the old life and entering the new life. And so I just absolutely loved having him on as a guest last week, and I hope to have him on again.
I agree on that, too. He was, Robert Brown's, he's a breath of fresh air.
Ooh, he is, isn't he?
And you're going to go see him, actually.
I am. I'm going to go see him in May. I've already scheduled my calendar.
Oh, yes.
Blocked out the time.
That's wonderful. Yeah, he's going to be in our area here in a couple of months, too, and I haven't scheduled to go see him yet. I probably should. It's probably going to fill up fast on it.
Well, his tickets do sell out very fast.
They do?
Very
okay.
fast.
Maybe I better do that then. So we have only a couple minutes left. So who is coming up soon? Who is our guest coming up soon?
Who's our guest coming up soon? Well, next Sunday, we have Reggie Bannister.
Right.
Reggie Bannister, who is a director-producer of horror movies. And since it's in the month of October,
yes,
then naturally we want to hear from Reggie about what upcoming movie he has scheduled for the holidays. And then on the 28th of October, we have Trish Woods, which is a well-known psychic and medium. And following that, we have James Hatcher, who is actually the director of the Shiloh Center in St. Augustine, Florida, and he handles paranormal research and investigations. And then following that, we have Pam Heath, actually Dr. Pam Heath. And she has a book that she's written called Suicide, What Really Happens in the Afterlife. And so she is an associate of Lloyd Auerbach. And so she's got a lot of research and information to share with us.
Oh, she is affiliated with Lloyd.
Yes.
Wow.
They work together.
And we were just talking about Lloyd earlier.
I know. So
You know,
I'm very eager to have Pam on because she has a lot of valuable information. And I chit-chatted with her last week, and very interesting woman who has a lot of knowledge in the paranormal.
Yes, you know what? I have to research her more because I think I'm not sure on how much I know about her. In fact, there's people in the virtual auditorium that's making a comment about knowing who she is, and I have to say I'm not sure who she is. So I'll have to research her and learn a little bit more about her. We also, too, are hooking up with the Learning Light Foundation. They do have a facility here in California, in Anaheim, and in Los Angeles. It's a learning facility for those of like minds who are psychic mediums. They have just a humongous category of different classes that you can take there, from anywhere from intuitive tarot to spirit art, from psychic development, feng shui. They have numerologists, astrologists. They have classes on healing.
Mm-hmm.
You can take your Reiki classes. I mean, just to name a few. And so what we've done is we've hooked up with them, and coming up in the next month or so, we're going to dedicate a day or a show for them each month to bring in somebody that they're having new. They're having Gandhi's grandson coming in.
Oh, wow.
So we're looking
Incredible.
forward to that we'll be booking an interview with Gandhi's grandson. And, that's interesting in itself. The fact is that Gandhi, I mean, who doesn't know what Gandhi means? I mean,
Exactly.
just you hear that name and you really
a lot
know.
of humanitarian work. And Gandhi, what an incredible man he was.
Absolutely on that. And so I was just given our 1 minute notice. And so, I want to thank you for allowing me to interview you this week.
Well, thank you, Tuesday.
And you're welcome. And happy birthday to you, and happy birthday to everybody who's having their birthdays in October. A lot of my favorite friends' birthdays, and I know that. So, and Linda, you have a terrific birthday today, and we will see you all next week. And thanks for tuning in. And we appreciate it, and everybody have a very blessed week ahead.
Thank you.
And we'll leave it at that.